Hey guys, Rick Stone here from Stoney Acres Gardening. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about what you can do in July in your garden to fill in all of those empty spots. So if your garden's anything like mine, and we can look back here, right here, these are my peas. We finished harvesting these peas this week. They're done, need to come out. Over here is our garlic, and our garlic is ready to harvest. We're just kind of in the final give it a few days without water stage, and then that garlic is ready to harvest. So all of a sudden I'm going to have this 4 by 4 foot space and then a 4 by 12 foot space in my garden that are available for something to grow. Also, I've got areas where maybe I had bad germination. I've got a spot where I had some cantaloupe come up and a snail or something came in and just decimated those plants overnight. They're gone, so I've got an empty spot there. This time of year, we have some mid-season replacement to be doing, and there's actually a pretty long list of crops that you can still plant in July and expect to get a harvest before your garden finishes up in the fall. So let's talk about those. One thing I should mention is this video is intended for those of you that live in some of the colder garden zones. So here we're talking about 4, 5, 6, 7, the zones where we have an actual winter time and where your first frost date is probably somewhere between 90 to 100 days away. And so those are the people that are going to benefit from these plantings right now. Let's start out by talking about some of the warm season crops that we can be planting this late in the season. So there are still a few of our kind of traditional summertime crops that you can plant in July and still reasonably expect to get a harvest before your frost shows up, sometime in late September, early October. So first off, we've got our summer squashes. So any of your summer squashes, both zucchini and Pattypan squashes, and even the kind of yellow crookneck squashes, all of those are very quick growing plants. Usually you're getting a harvest somewhere between 60 to 75 days, which means we've still got plenty of time before the frost to get those planted and to get a decent harvest out of those plants. So get those seeds planted as soon as you can in July. That's going to fill in a lot of space in your garden, and you can still plan on a good harvest from those. Also, we have our beans. So we're starting to get a little bit late on pole beans. You probably could still plant some pole beans and be okay getting a harvest from them. But bush beans are an amazing mid-season fill-in plant that you can be using in your garden because they do really well. You're going to be starting to see a harvest in 60 days from those bush beans, and so bush beans are a perfect warm season crop that you can still be planting this late in the season. Also cucumbers. So cucumbers are 60 to 70 days when you'll start seeing the first of your harvest, and so now is a perfect time to put in a second planting of cucumbers. Maybe you've had some trouble with your first ones. Get some more cucumbers planted. They're going to do okay, and they'll have plenty of time. And then one other, maybe just a little bit of a bonus for you, is if it's early in July and you would like to plant some melons, you could still plant a few melons, but very specific ones. So here we're talking about some of the smaller cantaloupes or the icebox watermelons. So like maybe a sugar baby, those smaller, rounder melons still have time to grow. So we're going to be looking at 70 to 80 days for harvest on those. And so you do still have some time to get those planted, but you really need to hurry and get those in early in July. There are also some cool season crops that you can be planting this time of year that are kind of more heat hardy, I guess is what you would call them. So these are traditional cool season crops that are actually going to do okay in the heat, and they'll be maturing when the weather starts to cool off in the fall anyways, which is what we want. So now is a good time to plant all of these. So first off is some leafy greens, and that would be kale and collards. Both of those are going to do really well planted this time of year. You can either plant them by seedling, or you can just direct sow the seeds out in the garden. Either one is going to be fine. You'll need to baby them a little bit till they get germinated and get a little bit established, but both of those are going to do really well this time of year. Also, Swiss chard is another leafy green that is going to do fine in the heat. And again, we're targeting that maturing time to be in the fall, and so they're going to do really well. Summer crisp lettuces are a lettuce that a lot of people don't know much about. So summer crisp lettuces include varieties like Magenta, Nevada, Fusion, Cherokee. All of those are good varieties of summer crisp lettuces that actually hold up really well to the summer heat. They don't get tip burn nearly as easily, they don't go bitter nearly as quickly, and so you can be planting those either by seed or by seedling this time of year, and they're going to do just great, and it'll give you some lettuce and some salad crops for, you know, here in just 6 weeks or so you'll start harvesting from those. So summer crisp lettuces are a great option. Also, if you happen to be in like one of your local nurseries and you see that they still have a bag of onion sets laying around, you could go ahead and buy those onion sets. Planting onions by sets this time of year is not going to get you full-size onions, but you could plant those sets and harvest green onions from those in July. So if you plant them now, you should have green onions to harvest in August and September. So that's a great option for you. You can also plant leeks this time of year. You could either do that by seed, or you could get some seedlings started indoors to set out a little bit later in the season. But either way, leeks are going to do pretty good this time of year. One that I often forget about is beets. So beets do really well this time of year. And in fact, this space that's right below me where our garlic is going to come out, this year I'm going to plant that entire bed to beets. And you will have to baby them a little bit at the beginning. So you'll probably want to cover the bed with some burlap to help keep the moisture in so that you can get a good even germination. But once they're up and going, beets are going to do fine to handle the heat, and that crop of beets that you plant in July is going to be ready to harvest in, early to late September, and you'll have, a great filling crop in that space. And then the last one that I wanted to talk about with you is peas. So now is the time to start thinking about planting a fall crop of peas. You want to plant your fall peas about 10 to 12 weeks before your first frost date. So for me, that puts me solidly in mid-July. So you can definitely plant some peas this time of year. You just need to be aware that a fall crop of peas is not going to do nearly as well as your spring crop did. They're going to be growing up in the heat, and so they'll be more stressed and you won't get as much production. But if you would like to have some peas this time of year, then I would go ahead and get some planted, again, about 10 weeks before your first frost date. For me, in the fall, I like to plant sugar snap peas and snow peas because they seem to do a little bit better than the traditional English shelling peas. One other thing that I wanted to remind you is if you are wanting to get a fall crop of brassica family plants, so things like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kohlrabi, all of those need to go indoors right about now. So first part of July is when you want to actually get those seedlings started so that you can transplant them out when the weather is cooler. We want to have 6 to 8 week old seedlings. If you get them started the first part of July, that means they're going to be ready to set out first part of September. I did a whole video about when you should be planting those fall seedlings just about a week ago. There's a link right up here that you can click on to go check that video out. But now is the time for planting those brassica family crops indoors under your lights so that you have those ready to go out a little bit later in the fall. All right, that's all I have for you for this week. Before we go, I did want to mention our year-round gardening mini course. Right now we are in the middle of getting things ready for our fall garden and helping you guys to get your fall gardens ready as well. And one of the things that I have is a free mini course that you guys can watch that teaches you more about year-round gardening. So we're going to talk about what crops you can be planting for a fall and winter garden. We'll talk about the timing, and we talk about protection and how you're going to actually protect those crops in the fall. This course is free. It's about 45 minutes long. There's a link in the description of this video that you can click on to go check that out, but I'd love to have you go sign up for it. Again, it's free, and I updated that video 100% this year, so it's a brand new video basically for you, and you can click on that and go check that out. So link in the description of this video for that. Okay, that, my friends, is all I have for you for this week. Please make sure that you give this video a thumbs up, get subscribed to my channel, and we will talk to you next week. Happy gardening.